Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. Hope you come back often. Hope you tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters with the show's prayer. Father Walters, welcome.
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and the beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and the artistry that you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Father, thank you so very much. Sorry that you've got pneumonia. I hope you feel better and get well right quick. But thank you so much for being here this evening and for everything that you do for the show. Well, now I want to run the sponsors video, which is Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis' spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
Well, next, I want to introduce Chris Corse and Greg Cassidy so that they can tell you about the upcoming My Build. The next one is the 16th of October, and one after that is the 20th of November. So, Chris, Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Welcome, everybody. Hope everything's going okay down there for you, Jim. Okay, so the My Build October Challenge are layouts finished, in progress, switching layouts, modules, dioramas, things along those lines. Once again, it's pretty open. Whatever you guys can come up with to kind of fit that category would be greatly appreciated. Especially if you've never participated before, please see this as an opportunity. That show is October 16th, of 1 week from today. And to participate, email your photos to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com. And please try to get that to me by Sunday. That way we can make sure that we get all your photos into the slideshow. And Greg, did you have anything you wanted to say tonight?
Yeah, I wanted to mention to everybody that I've sent in pictures of my layout, and I will be on vacation next week, so there's a possibility I won't be logged on. I'm hoping my laptop might work down there, but we'll see. We're at the beach. So what I did was, along with the photos, I just sent a little Word file that gave a brief description of each photo. That way, if I don't make it on, Chris has something he can read about each photo, and people aren't trying to guess, what is that mess? So that's always something to think about if you're sending in pictures. It doesn't hurt to send along a little text file just saying what the pictures are about. That's it.
Yep, good point, Greg. Good luck. Well, actually, I'll see you this weekend. For those that are in the Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia, I'm sure I'm West Virginia area. The
Greatest show on
Timonium
earth.
trade shows this weekend. What's that?
The greatest show on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, Timonium show is this weekend. All the tables are sold out. So this promises to be a really big show. So, and I think there's 700 tables. So if you can, if you're in the area, or maybe you're looking to take a road trip, please come see us. It'll be Saturday, opens at 9. I think it's like 9 to 5, and then 10 to 4 on Sunday. But a lot of people try to beat the traffic, beat the rush to get out of there on Sunday. So anyway, please come see us. And I forgot, the next regular My Build is November 20th. So even if you don't have anything to share for this month, you can go ahead and email me those photos for next month, and we'll be sure to get them in. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Chris, where is Conolingo Travel? Where is your table?
We are in the South Hall of the Cow Palace with the Craftsman Courtyard. And I've heard that Steve Milley, who is he lives in North Carolina in the mountains, and he was affected by the last hurricane that went through. And they've got power back, and he's going to be there this weekend. And so is his wife, whom we look forward to meeting. And so this is going to be the biggest Craftsman Courtyard ever. So Steve will be there with rail scale models, Motrack, Mud Creek, Mine Mount. We've got Berkshire Valley coming. I went out and sought him out.
Microlumina.
Yep, Microlumina. I forget who else. I think there's actually a couple. There's somebody next to me I've never heard of before, but hopefully it'll turn out to be something good. So.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Well, now I want to introduce Bob Davidson to talk about our scholarship program a little bit. Bob, welcome.
I don't see Bob.
Bob is not with us. Okay. Well, I won't introduce Bob then. Let's start the show. And the first person that we have to talk to us is Joel Weber, who is the spokesperson and chairman for the S-Fest that's coming up in St. Louis. And Karen Bahista, who owns American Models, is also going to talk about the new S-Scale scene that her company and 2 other companies are putting together. That'll be an animated scene in S-Scale. So Joel, Karen, welcome.
Hello. How's everybody tonight?
Great. Yourself?
I'm outstanding, believe it or don't. All right. S-Fest. Let me find there we are. Had to find and then I've got to turn on my sharing, all this technology stuff. All right. So I'm going to share here because I think what's going to happen when I click slideshow, come on now. There we go. Okay, you see my screen talking about the S-Fest?
Yes.
This is happening the October 25th through the 27th. This is actually the 47th S-Fest. Been going on many, many years. What is it? It's a convention of S-Gauge and S-Scale trains we hold in the fall. It's rotated amongst, I say 3 to 4 clubs because State Line has kind of shrunk in numbers, and I don't think they're going to be remaining in the rotation. But Chicagoland Association of S-Gaugers started it. Badgerland picked up on it. Eventually, the St. Louis group got involved, and this year is our turn. Involves at the core, it's a swap meet of S-Gauge related merchandise. Trains, vehicles, buildings, etc., etc. We hold clinics at various topics during the S-Fest. We have a model contest. We typically have at least one operating display. Our St. Louis club layout will be out in the lobby of the hotel. It's 26 by 12, I think it is, 3 tracks running simultaneously, operating accessories for kids to push buttons and things like that. Sunday, we do tours of local layouts. We've got convention cars that people can buy, as we have a speaker and an auction on Saturday. Always a popular event. The cars that we're featuring this year are TOFC cars from American Models. These are custom made. These trailer paint jobs have never been produced before in S-Gauge. They are based on prototypical paint jobs, even if they weren't prototypical to these specific trailers. But you know, each club kind of picks something that ties to their area a little bit or their area of interest, and this is what we're doing this year. Sign up is on our website, which is shown here on the second line, trainweb.org/AFSGSLA. No limit on attendees. We do have limited tables. In fact, I'm down to a waiting list. Convention cars have sold pretty briskly. There are still some available. So obviously we'd like those to sell out, but you know, it is what it is. So that's that. I can show a video of the project. We have 3 manufacturers who've put together a joint project, which is a transfer station. I'm hoping the sound comes through. This one's a little weak.
Catspaw Innovations, New Creations, Victorian Railroad Buildings, and American Models are pleased to present the 1/64 scale transfer station with animation. Here we have a video showing the pallet jack in motion. Catspaw Innovations, New Creations, Victorian Railroad Buildings, and American Models are pleased to present the 1/64 scale transfer station. Here we have animation. Contents broken out by manufacturer. Here we have a video showing the pallet jack in motion. Pricing for the 4 different scenarios for purchasing. Here we have the kit contents broken out by manufacturer. Pricing for the 4 different scenarios for purchasing. Go to the website for more information and to sign up to be notified when the pre-order goes live.
All right. It seems like we had one running over the other there. I apologize for that. Not sure how that happened. But anyway, this project is being debuted at the S-Fest. The promotion pricing ties to that, and that is the first opportunity for people to see it and, of course, place their initial order. So we're pretty excited about that. But all in all, I look forward to the convention. I think I'm going to have a good time, and my train layout's going to be on Sunday, and it's just going to immerse myself in trains for the weekend. Anybody has any questions, holler out. Other than that, that's what I've got for the evening.
Well, Karen, you're one of the three manufacturers. You own American Models. Would you like to say something about this? Karen, are you muted?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now I
There you
can.
are.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're really excited to be a part of this. I think that it's going to be really popular, and people will have the opportunity to order a whole lot of things from us, you know, from boxcars, gondolas, whatever they want to use, in various trailers that we have. And we've got them in numerous road names. So I think it's going to be really popular.
Well, we tried to make it. I know that all three manufacturers tried to make it as easy for people to in effect buy the basic parts, the shed and the animation and the freight cars and trailer cars, and then create their own scene, however they would like to have it structured. And I really think that this is something that hasn't been done before in S scale, and I hope it goes over beautifully, because I know the three manufacturers, as well as Joel. And Joel, for anybody that's interested, Joel was the chairman of the modeling advisory group that worked with the three manufacturers to make sure that the scene and the elements of the scene were what the committee thought that would really be popular and sell a lot of them to the yes community. So Joel, for you and your committee, thank you so much for everything that you've done for the manufacturers. And Karen, thanks so much for your leadership. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Jim.
And this, the convention that Joel told you about, this is the pre-order period. So if you pre-order at this convention, you will get some special pricing and so forth. So you really ought to take a hard look at it. And if you have any questions, give Joel or Karen or Sherry at Cat's Paw or Alan Rogers at the other company. Just give them a call and ask your questions. But I hope it goes well for you, Karen. Have a great trip.
Thank you so much, Jim. We look forward to it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Karen or Joel? Okay, thank you so much. Well, now I want to introduce in-scale modeling segment. The sponsor for this is National Capital Trains.
National Capital Trains is the largest supplier of N-scale modeling products in the state of Virginia. We have been in business since 1989. We carry a full line of modeling products, specializing in N and HO-N3 scales. We carry a large selection of competitively priced high-quality N-scale products from Atlas, Bachmann, Digitrax, Intermountain, Cato, Microtrains, NCE, Pico, Rapido, Soundtrax, as well as Brass. For foreign railroad train aficionados, we offer a wide selection of Japanese and European prototype trains. We are located 20 miles from Washington, D.C. in Springfield, Virginia. We are a short 7-minute drive off Interstate 95. Stop in and see us for the best in N-scale. We also have online ordering on our website, including great prices and expert advice. Call us for your N-scale modeling needs and advice. Use the QR code to visit our website. We look forward to serving you.
You know, Bernie mentioned Cato as one of the companies that he represents. I recently was talking to an in-scale modeler who told me about a product that Cato produces. And forgive me if I get this wrong, but my understanding is it's called the Cato Diorama Circus. And it's a small model. It's, I think, 5, 6, 7 inches in size. And people are buying them and creating scenes on them. It comes with a piece of Cato track, and there are certain dimensions and requirements and so forth to be able to make it into a module, and they're being taken to shows and set up as a module layout and actually operate. Frankly, some of the older people like myself, trying to hustle around a 2-foot by 4-foot module is tough. But something that this small, you can almost put it in your pocket and take it around. So I think that this really has some potential, not just for N-scalers, but for a lot of modelers who would like to experiment a little bit with creating different kinds of scenes or using different techniques they may hear about or learn about. And it would be something that would be easy to use and I think possibly a fun project. Bernie has volunteered to provide some literature on our table at Timonium this weekend. And you can pick up some information about these and find out a little bit more about them from our table at the show. But I think this really may have some real potential for a lot of first-time modelers, and for some of us old guys that just don't want to have to lug the big 2x4 modules around anymore. Anyway, the host for this segment of our show, N-Scale Modeling, is Bill Stimson. So, Bill, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. See if I can share. Hey, look at that. Does it show up on the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. First time I've done this on a Zoom call, so.
My gosh, you're an expert.
So, by way of introduction, here is my path to today. When I was 13, I bought my first N-scale starter set. A year later, my grandfather passed away, and he was a model railroader. My father was not, but my grandfather was. So I ended up getting a stack. I didn't get anything from his layout, but I got a stack of model railroader magazines, and those kind of inspired me through high school. And of course, then you hit 1978 through 95, and I didn't have any money for hobby because I got married, had children, went to college, and all of that fun stuff. I built a layout about 95 for a while in the garage, and several years later, I abandoned that. In 2007, I decided on a third one. I started building based on an old MR project layout, the Sierra Pintata, and that lasted for a few years, but it was too much, and I just couldn't get it moving. In 2017, I retired and joined the NMRA and went to my first convention, and I abandoned the Sierra Pintata. Last year, I started building a layout, which I will send pictures to Chris for the next My Build. And it's just based on an old 4x8 that was in model railroader. It's 28 by 56 inches. And so my inspirations have been Frank Ellison. You can see some of the buildings I built, the Franks, E.L. Moore. I didn't find any buildings still alive from my years. Art Curran, Thomas York. I've shown my Thomas York ones in my builds in the past. Anyway, so this month I worked on some new creations kits. I actually met Alan Rogers in California on our summer trip and bought the Weller gas station and the Weller store from Alan. And so I started work on them in June. I stained the walls with a mid-brown wash from Army Painter, and then painted them silver gray from Vallejo and Word Bearers Red, which is a Citadel paint. There's a closer up, and you assemble them with, you can see how small that's a. Give you an idea, that's the square, metal square you see there in the picture. Give you an idea of the size of these things. I think I have a picture with a dime in it later on. And so I showed some of these pictures in the August My Build, I think. And then when I got back here, I decided I'd take some of these swap meet details that I've purchased over the years and see if I can assemble this into some kind of a module. And so you end up with some, there's a penny to give you an idea of the size, some pumps with, that's actually copper wire that's bent to fit. And then I started work on the store, painting the same way. The kit did not come with roof trusses, but I decided since I was going to put an interior and light in it, I would put some roof trusses in and make the roof actually removable. And then I found another bunch of details. These are laser cut store shelves. And by painting the little laser cut cans, boxes, whatever, in various colors, they look somewhat realistic, especially in N scale and from a distance. And then I mounted them inside. And now you can start to see the building. I added some dry transfer signs from an old kit and the Weller decal from Allen, and put some matte varnish over them. And I had an LED light to the inside to give you some light. That roof is actually on, and that's, you can actually see the storekeeper and a customer in the store. Here's where it's going to go on my layout. I'm not quite ready to put the rest of the scene together, but that's where it's going to go. And the hole here is for the LED cord when it gets set up. I added a car to the scene. This is actually a brass etched kit that you assemble with super glue, and it's tiny. You could see it in the picture right there. And there's a picture with the dime on it. Give you some idea of the size of these kits. They are interesting to build. They can be a challenge just because of the size more than anything. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Bill? Bill, thank you so very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Well, now I want to go to Martin Brechbiel, NMRA, for his Scratch Building Corner. Martin, welcome.
Okay, I'm almost here. Gosh. Oh, that's horrifying. You spotlighted me and I'm staring at myself. Terrifying. That's better. Slides. Okay. Well, this is interesting. Where is it? There it is. Okay. We all still here, Jim?
Yes, sir.
You haven't gotten washed out to sea yet, have you?
No, I'm still hanging in there.
Keep your wetsuit handy.
Just waiting for you.
Oh, well, I'm not coming down there. I don't care. Okay. Part 4, the towerless house, painting and finishing. Well, there'll be some painting and there'll be some finishing, but we won't be done. So count on a part 5. Lots of painting. So I wish I knew what color blue that is. It's probably something called blue, if I'm not forgotten totally. It's a polyscale color. I don't remember what the gray is. It just gets hand painted all the way around. This is somewhat tedious to do because you don't want to slop it on too badly. And this is just the first coat, so you don't get to see the finished colors for a while. Back to that discussion on brushes. You have to use a pretty good sized brush, pretty stiff brush to paint O-scale clapboard to get the paint down into that. So that's why you end up getting 2 coats. That's a good way to get rid of a bottle of polyscale. or two. Fun part, of course, is painting the porch down here on the, working your way through here. It's always an adventure with the brush and the paint and trying not to drop too much on anywhere you don't want it. Just work your way around. More paint, and more paint, and more paint again. And you can see, I don't know how many of these I broke off. I guess 2, maybe 3. But it's just painting, and it's slow but tedious. And you work your way around, and you're done. Well, first coat at least. Then you go back and touch everything up and put a second coat on it. Maybe paint the decking on the 2 porches. We'll get to that, but this is the real fun here. This is what is the cause of great amounts of colorful language and causes the consumption of alcohol and many other things, and maybe some medication at times, and maybe some electroshock therapy. You get into painting multiple colors on Grant Line windows. This really does test one's patience. But this is the first go round. And of course, my color scheme advisor, who is my better half and spouse, and she who must be obeyed, chose white, even despite the fact that I explained to her repeatedly that none of the white paints are really all that good and it will take multiple coats. And she said, I don't care, do it that way anyhow. And of course, you stand up and salute and keep going forward. And I think that's actually Pennsylvania Railroad Tuscan for the red. It's an interesting color combination that she liked. What you can't see is the top of all these arches. They're exposed and they're also painted. So there's a lot of different little sources of frustration and aggravation right here. Not the least of which is these are also glazed. Well, cutting a curve on all these parts with a pair of tiny scissors and getting it right the second or third time does test one's patience as well. And then gluing it into place without making a total mess of it. Well, you know, this is, again, what brings men to drink a lot. This is what else brings them to drink, is to painting this deck floor. And getting in here with a brush and not getting it all over the walls or everything else. Well, that's a bit of a challenge and makes things entertaining. And a plain wood foundation doesn't work, so some paper bricks. I think I got these from Steve Milley at Rail Scale Models. At least I hope that is, because I like to give him credit at least, and not deprive anybody else of credit or blame. You just wrap that piece of paper all the way around with some glue, work your way around and around and around. Try not to get dizzy as you get there. The back deck is also painted. That was actually more problematic and trickier to paint for some reason, as I recall. And you work your way around with the bricks, and there we are. So now we got the windows in. I just usually put a little dab of goo on each side of it and just shove it in the hole. Of course, that doesn't work because you've painted the walls with polyscale and they swelled a little bit. So the holes are a little small. So you have to go back and test fit every single hole again and cut it open with a scalpel, which makes things more entertaining. And then you get them all back in, so it works okay. This is 5/1000 copper, sheet copper. It just cut and folded and glued in place and bent around and shoved in there. And you hit that with a hammer and a very small hammer and a small chisel, actually, to shape it into place and form it a little bit. And I left that pretty much unfinished because after putting all the work I put into it, I did not want to mess it up any further. Chimneys on the roof and shingles on the roof. Those shingles are from Rail Scale. I know they are. And they sell an interesting product that has multiple types of shingles in the same pack. And once upon a time in Victorian houses, having multiple types of shingles on your roof was very fashionable. So that's been emulated here. We have 2 chimneys, which basically cut a hole in the roof, shove the chimney casting through after you painted it. And you don't cut the hole 100% free. You cut the two sides and the top and push down. And if you push down carefully and you don't break it off, that gets you a platform to rest your casting on for the chimney. And with a little practice, that becomes pretty easy to do. Steps are just pieces of basswood painted gray. These little brass pieces are actually not brass, they're painted brass, but they're from Berkshire Valley. I'm not sure what they're really called. These are precision scale parts. I have no idea what they are, but I like the way they looked on the roof. So that's where they went. You know, not all parts necessarily go where their names tell you to put them. Sometimes they look better somewhere else, and you should let your imagination float with that. And go around the corner here. Well, these gutters are actually white metal castings. Crow River, I think, makes those. The downspouts are styrene. You know, lots of fun cutting bevels and gluing them together and putting them on here. It's all repainted copper, a copper craft paint. This is one of my experiments in chemistry. Aging copper standing seam roofing. This is from Builders and Scale, which apparently is no longer, well, or temporarily until further notice, not selling anything, which is unfortunate because I would love to get more of this roofing material. I have lots of the aluminum and steel type roof, but the copper would be so much more fun to use. This effect was done with about 40% acetic acid and some copper chloride and copper acetate mixed into the acetic acid. So basically really strong vinegar and some copper salts, and just paint it on and walk away and come back later, and it magically does this. And you add another layer if you want, or you can stop where you were. I just happen to like it, and I had this laying about, so I put it on there. And we go around back, and you can see what happens if you really overdo it. And of course, this is over the kitchen area, so we figured, why not? They deserve the roof that they've created, and it fits fairly well. Again, I think it's 3 or 4 applications of that copper salts and acetic acid. And another view of the roof, so you can see we have regular shingles and we have these scallop shingles in between and a cap over the top. And you can see the tops of these windows. Yeah, I had to go back and touch every window up 2 or 3 times. Loads of fun, particularly painting this interior spot right here on these windows. The chimneys are resin castings, as I recall. So they're just painted with 3 or 4 or 5 different colors of red and some black and some browns and smeared about, and at a distance, they look okay. So another view from the other side. And we'll do more painting and finishing next week. No, we won't. We'll do it in 2 weeks. Right, Jim?
Right.
Very good.
Actually, you're going to do it in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
On the 30th.
Okay.
But I can't wait to see it.
Neither I can't either.
Anybody got any questions for Martin?
Did I go in the next room and look at it again? No.
The copper flashing where the roof.
Yeah.
Roof.
I didn't get the last part of that, bud. You're muted still. There you are.
Yeah, where the roofs meet. You know.
Yeah.
He keeps muting himself.
You keep muting yourself there, bud. Something about the flashing where the roof meets.
Yeah. How did that go? Did you put the flashing on first and then the shingles?
Oh yes, the flashing went on first. I think I covered that last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember, but yeah, that's just 5 thousandths copper. cut a strip and just shove it in there and form it in there, and then pull it back out, stick some goo in and shove it back in, and it's never going to come out.
Where did you get that copper?
Oh God.
Or is it an old storage?
That came in a large cardboard box of stuff, and I use the word stuff very, very politely. That actually, a lot of really good stuff. Actually, that came from the Harry Roberts estate auction. One of the first such things I ever went to as an O-scale modeler. It was the most bizarre experience that I hadn't probably yet. Harry Roberts was a true innovator of O-scale and had a line of hopper cars, brass hopper cars he sold as kits, a bascule bridge, all kinds of a rotating unloader for copper hopper cars, etc. You know, he had some really neat stuff with all the electronics in it. This is 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
With some pretty sophisticated stuff. And I spent way too much money on too many things that I didn't need that I am still using to this day. Namely the copper foil, which came in a roll, but the roll is it's about a 2-inch roll by I don't know how many yards long, but it's a lot smaller than it was 20 years ago. You can buy copper foil. It's out there. Just Google it or just look on eBay.
Yeah.
It won't be cheap.
Tom,
Or maybe it will be.
Tom, you can get that copper roll off of Temu.
Ah,
Off of who? What?
Temu.
Temu.
Yeah, the site is called Temu. There, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
TEMU. They actually have quite a few products that can translate into model railroading that are very, very cheap. Just don't hold your breath on the shipping. Takes a while.
So this is Amazon.
Yeah,
and
it's out there.
You can see, so $10 you can buy some foil to use. So
yeah, there you are. Lots of options for you. And the spikes, I'm told, are called finials. Yes, they are, but I don't know what precision scale was actually calling them. I was calling them lightning rods, but whatever you want to call them. Like I said, they came out of a pack from Precision Scale. There's some part for steam engines for something, but I don't know what, or so I presume. I've never been able to relocate what they are called, and I failed to write down the part number in my notes.
Okay.
So it goes.
Anybody else have any questions for Martin? Martin, thank you so much.
Cool.
Well, now I want to turn to Tom Farrell for his scratch building projects. Tom, welcome.
Thank you for having me this evening. And tonight I'm going to finish the terminal, Gary's Rustic Buff Beer Distributor Terminal. As you may recall, Gary and I are exchanging buildings. I'm building a model for his ON30 Porto Baracho Railway. He's building one for my Rustic Buff. And we're each doing our own thing so that on purpose, our buildings will look a little out of place on each other's layout and therefore become a conversation piece. That's the nice liberty of working with ON30. So each one will be unique to our railroads. Mine is favors the gritty Depression era Pittsburgh, weathered wood siding, soot, and something that fits right at home at the Rustic Buff and Old Gothic. And I did put Spanish name on his building just to be completely out of place. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Gary's masterpiece, the Porto Baracho Railroad. But he does all these whimsical things, and he's an extraordinary modeler. I have 3 slides I'm going to share. Everything he does is scratch built, and this is all O scale, ON30 gauge. And pretty neat stuff. That's another scene, El Jefe, one of his engines. And the whole thing is just like a comic strip that comes alive, and everything's weathered, everything's handmade, all scratch built. He has these characters which he makes himself, and it's just an amazing place. If you want to get lost in another world, come aboard our ON30 railroading Facebook page, or Gary's own Porto Baracho Railway Facebook page, and you can see more of his work. Look at that. Isn't that, as a freelancer in ON30, you can do just about anything you want. And he takes it to an extreme, but it's just very interesting scenes, very funny things. And he writes terrific stories to accompany his artwork. And this is a mock-up of what he's going to make for me. He always does a drawing in advance. And we agreed that by December 31st, we would have each other's models built, structures built. I sort of got a jump. I had a little window, so I knocked mine out. And we'll feature his in a subsequent show. So I'm going to start from the beginning, and this will take us all the way to the end. I start with a piece of plywood and 1/4-inch material. Then I use Monster Works O-scale concrete block material. This is this laser cut material that's just highly detailed and real time saver. When I use this material, I always take a mini razor saw blade and I cut the top to, in case you see any of this exposed surface, it appears as though they're actual blocks and not just the saw cut. Nice little technique. Then I went to Monster Model Works O-scale old brick sheet. The idea of using 2 different materials, and sometimes I use 3, is to show that the original structure was the larger one in concrete block, and then they had additions to the left and right as the business expanded. Next up, I put sill plates, 2x10s, on top of the brick to get ready for the eventual studding. Actually, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to put on the right side of the building at this point, but I did know what I was going to do in the middle of the building. I decided that this would be a stick build, and it would be basically a decrepit building that was partially fallen in. So I wanted to paint the inside, the foundation area, this black acrylic paint, so it would cover up any lack of details if you looked in between the floor joists. Then I started with sill plates, 2x12s in this case. And then I set in the floor joists. These are 2x12s. These were yellow glued in here. I cleaned this up. Those are 2x12s. I wanted 2x12s because I was going to have kegs of beer on there, so it would be a lot of weight. So I wanted something a little substantial. That was my thinking. Then I began with the stud wall, and that was 2x6s with 1x6 siding. And I used 3 hunter line colors to stain the siding. There's another view. Then it added this little cupola on here. This is a Grant Line door, and this is very thin, I think it's 1/32 inch plywood that I had. See, I put the first floor piece in there. So there's a view of the Grant Line door, the plywood, and these 1x6s, the 2x6, 2x8 frames. There's a look at the back wall. You can see the three different colors, the brown, a blue-gray, and a driftwood, they call it. But the idea is to be random. And you don't want uniformity when you do something, when you do anything in my book. But this just makes it much more interesting to have all these different colors. And we'll push these colors back with pan pastels later. Now I've put in the floor here. This is just more 2x6 material, purposely exposing the 2x12 studs. And these are 2x12 rafters sitting on 2x6s and a 4x4. Just another view again, seeing the three colors I used. This really doesn't take a lot of skill, to be honest. It just takes a lot of patience. Just slowly, one piece at a time, either with tweezers or poking it with an X-Acto blade and setting it in place. Just another view. At this point, I decided I wanted a sliding metal door. So I took two pieces of styrene and I pre-painted them with Floquil Old Silver. I took a couple coats because I didn't prime them. Then I just bent them in here and super glued right here, and I super glued it along this edge. And here I've stained the used Monster Works brick with a rust color that really comes off well for brick. These are the base colors. That's just a gray primer there. There's a better view of those. These are simulating the tracks of a sliding garage type door. And it's another view. I decided to put in the decking here. So I used the same size wood, but I ran it in a different direction. And I ran these joists in a different direction, principally for variation. But typically when you're having a loading, at this point I was going to have a loading dock here. I just thought it would be better to have the wood running this way, front to back, rather than side to side. And I wanted this little variation here. Now the building's starting to take shape. You can see my garage door, sliding metal door. This is styrene, evergreen styrene. It's slotted like that. I just painted that. Those are base colors still, just rust colors. There's a nice close-up. Not exactly sure what's going on there. I'll go back and put pan pastels on this, and then I'll touch it with the Floquil silver to show that it's not completely rusted out. And I've stained touched up the ends of these boards. They were freshly cut before, now they're stained. There's the right-hand side. So again, this is just an exercise in patience. These are 1x6s cut on my chopper. 3 different colors. I start at the bottom, work up. There'll be a piece of trim that covers that up around the perimeter of this door opening. These are 2x6s in this case. This is a very high magnification. So if it stands up at this view at a normal viewing distance, it really looks nice. There's a little trick. This super glue that you see here, when I finish my model, I spray it with dull coat. This disappears completely. You don't see any of this. Any of the glue, any of the shiny glue of the super glue or anything from the yellow glue, the dull coat makes it go away. So began to get a little warp in here. I took that out of it. These are just some odd size piece of material that I had in my scrap bin. I began the weathering process. So put a little silver on here. Put some pan pastels on here. That's actually bad lighting, I think. It's not really that color. That's the right color there. I thought when I was doing this, I thought, you know, instead of just having holes here, that I'd show the boards falling into the foundation, if you will. So I went back at some point. I don't know if the shows in some of the future slides, but I show the actual missing boards are bent and broken and put down into these dark spaces. I did it on both sides. This is that vestibule on the side of the building. This is actual metal siding. So this I did prime with Tamiya primer, the light primer that I use. Then I painted it with actually Tuscan float wool. And then I added acrylics on top of it. And then I finished with dabbing it with silver float wool, old silver. Now I've put the sign up. I did a Google translator since I don't speak Spanish. I speak German, which is of no use here. And put this into PowerPoint, made it, I think this was 4 inches by 1/2 inch. I mounted it on a piece of plywood with Elmer's glue. Then I framed it with a 2x1. I pre-painted this off red. At this point, I was making everything red here, all the trim. And I painted this door red. As you'll see, I changed the color of that door. More trim. Here I've added some pan pastels to knock that red back a little bit. I also take an emery board and I sand a little bit here to just take some of the paint off, and it exposes the wood, which further weathers the structure. I put these runners on here, which are 2x8s. And then I took this thin plywood, no piece bigger than a 2x8. These are, I think, 2x4s actually. What do you think? I'm not sure. But I just glued these on with super glue. There's the back wall. When you do a stick build and you're going to go to all this trouble, I leave a lot of spaces open, so I'm not burying my detail. You know, if I covered this all up and nobody knew it was there but me, what's the point, right? So I leave a lot of, one of the reasons I leave these boards off is so you can say, hey, he really did stud that wall, or hey, that roof is prototypical. You know, it just adds, plus your eye wanders to that. So it gives you a little more visual interest. This is the side here, the plywood. At this point, I was thinking I put something here. I wasn't sure what, but I thought that was too plain. This was a happy accident. When you put lacquer over acrylic, you get a very negative reaction. And it looks like peeling paint. And I thought, wow, couldn't try to do that if you wanted to. So I put the yellow on there over the red. Then I put some sort of hand-painted lacquer, and it just ate up the paint. And I just was so pleased with the look. I mean, it just really, really came alive there. Here's the rest of that See how I stud that wall? You don't have to be too, or how I put the siding on. You don't have to be too careful with these corners because you're gonna put trim on there. I actually had to go back and cut some of these, cut some of these high points out to get the trim to sit properly. Like that was a high spot, that was a high spot. So I went in with a number 10 blade and just cut that out so that the trim would seat properly. There's my roof. Remember I talked about leaving areas exposed. So you can see the door, you can see the track, you can see these runners, see the studs, you can see the plywood, you know. And then I put some of these pieces on here. This is purposely randomly put up there, these support pieces. Now she's really starting to shape up, at least the center part. This is an earlier, this picture's out of sequence because the door is yellow now. There you go. So then I thought with my success of a yellow door that I'd add a second color to the structure. So I painted yellow on the fronts of these ceiling joists, and then this little side addition, these are actually 6x6s and 2x6s. I painted it with yellow and I dry brushed it. Very nice effect. Added a second color to it, made it a little festive looking. And then I told you earlier how I toned things down with the pan pastels. You'll see how bright that yellow is. It's a little loud for me, so I went back and weathered it with grays and whites, pan pastels. Then I put these boards on here to show that danger, no entrance, condemned, no trespassing. I made this appear as though it fell down. It's in a state of disrepair. This is how I treated that big piece of plywood. I went online and looked for Mexican beers, old Mexican beers in the 20s and 30s. Found these, printed them out, cut them, Elmer glued them on there. These are just pieces of basswood cut to make stairs and treads. And then I extended my decking over to this side of the building. Yeah, there's a good look at those Pilsner, Superior, Cerveza, Mexicali. It's all in Spanish. Being from Pittsburgh, I had to throw that in. And see that's that Monster Works brick. So it's multiple colors of rust, and then just with this grouting material. I mean, it comes off as a very effective brick. Another shot of the roof, close up of the roof. That is the finished building right there. I hope Gary is happy when he receives it. It fits well in my layout. I hate to see it go. Any questions on this?
Anybody have any questions for Tom? Tom, thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
Well, now I want to go to HO Scale Modeling segment. And this is sponsored by Mainline Hobby Supply.
Mainline Hobby Supply is your one-stop store for model trains in G, O, S, HO, N and Z scales, including locomotives, rolling stock, track, train sets, and more to help build your model railroad. We are the largest model railroad shop in the area, and we carry a wide range of model railroad supplies across scales. Our friendly staff is always available to help with your modeling needs and to special order anything you may require. Mainline Hobby Supply is in southern Pennsylvania, halfway between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We are only an hour away from Baltimore and we are easy to get to from the 70, 81, 83, and 270 freeways. Plan to stop by on your next trip through Pennsylvania. Mainline Hobby Supply also has an online store that can cater to your modeling needs wherever you are located. With our large inventory, fixed shipping costs, friendly and knowledgeable service and prompt shipping, consider Mainline Hobby Supply for your next online order. Use the QR code to access our online store.
Our host for this segment is Ed O'Rourke, MMR. And Ed sent me an email earlier and said that he had kind of a conflict, but I think he may be here now. So Ed, welcome.
Thank you. All right, let's see here. Where are we? Let's share the screen. There we go. All right. Yeah, let's do that. How's that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going HO scale modeling. We tend to think that because it's a, you know, it's a smaller scale, you can put more track into the space that you have. There we go. That's true. But sometimes you don't want to do that. And so what I'm going to show you today is what you can do in HO scale if you don't insist on covering every square inch of your layout with track. And this is the SP Donner Pass layout of Peter Darling from Rochester. We just had our NER convention in Rochester a couple of weeks ago. And we're using it as a rehearsal for the 2028 NMRA National Convention that'll be in Rochester, we hope. So if you get a chance to get there, maybe you'll get a chance to see Peter's layout. So he models the Donner Pass. And let's see if I can get this going here. There we go. Okay, so this is the scenes that he has here. You can see the expanse of scenery that there is. This is sort of the beginning of the layout where it starts out. The lower level train here is a narrow gauge line that ran out in this same area. Just kind of comes out from under a bridge behind a mountain and comes into town. There's another shot of it. You can see that there. And he puts up pictures of what the actual scene looks like so you can compare it to what he's done here, which is just amazing. I got to run the passenger train here through all this scenery that he's built. And it takes about 20 minutes to run a train over the pass here. He's got a lot of cab forwards and big long trains because he's got plenty of room to show them. But the beauty of it is that the trains don't dominate the scenery dominates the trains.
Mm-hmm.
There you have another scene of it. All right, this one's a video. Everything on the layout is well done. And he's got a mix of kits and scratch builds. He has some guys that build for him. builds all the trees himself. Some of the trees he says now are commercial, but a lot of them he's built himself. And we're coming up, you can see he hasn't finished it yet. Just we're coming into a section that isn't done yet. So we'll skip ahead to the next one. Oops. There we go. We just had a presentation at a division meeting by a fellow who was up walking what's left of this line. This, of course, this line has been abandoned because they built a cutoff, sort of. So, but you can still get up and walk it. He walked through the some of the tunnels. He went in May, and there was still 8 feet of snow in some places, which made it exciting. No, I did it again. Wait a minute. There we go. Oh, that's it. So let me click to exit. And there we are. So that's what I got to show you for today. It's just I just was floored by this, and this is one of the best kept secrets in the Northeast because nobody's seen it until this convention, except the guys in the division out there that have been over to visit him. I'm hoping that they'll there's talk that Lou Sassy was going to come in and do it up for a model railroader, which would be interesting. Anyway, that's what I got to show you today. Next month we'll dive into my building of a new layout since I've moved. This was sort of prompted by the discussion Steve had about what do you do when you tear down your layout at age 73.
Yeah.
So we'll next month we'll start talking about what you do. Okay, thank you.
Ed, does he have a special way he builds trees? I mean, my God, the number of trees that he must have put up.
Peter, I don't know if you know Dick Elwell. You know his layout. You've heard of Dick. Now Dick is gone. He's passed. And Bob Ham, who's down your way, actually down in Florida now. Bob's moved down there. He and Peter and Dick were a group that modeled over there in that division, and they just I don't know what he does. He does a mix of commercial and his own stuff. He talked about, he said he built them. He didn't tell us how he did it. I'd like to get a clinic out of him on it, actually.
I'd love to. That's what I was thinking. Well, wouldn't that be great? Because the number of trees that he has on that layout. Gee whiz.
Peter's a retired. He's my age. He's a retired executive. I don't know whether he was Xerox or Kodak or what it was, but one of the big companies in Rochester. So he's quite talented.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody have any questions for Ed? Well, Ed, we'll look forward next time to see what you're doing with your new layout.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, now I want to turn to Mr. Steve Sherrill for his, what do you want to talk about, Steve?
Thank you, Jim. Last week we did a segment on safety while modeling, and we had a lot of response, a lot of communication within the group. And so I reached out to Jeff Jordan to give us a little talk about how he constructed his spray booth. And the reason we're going to do this is because Martin alerted us to some of the chemicals that we are coming into contact with currently, and maybe some of the old paints that we have, the Floquils and that kind of thing. So, Jeff, if you would go ahead and show us what you did to maybe get rid of some of these fumes that linger around in your modeling area.
Sure. As you requested, I paused today in my shop for a while and took 2 photographs to illustrate our discussions. In addition to there you go. Here we go. And if I click over here, oh, come on, where's the cursor? There we go. I also, pursuant to your request, also took a shot at the shop door there for a couple of other items I have in my shop. The first aid kit, which I must admit has been used more than once when you cut your fingers. The fire extinguisher, which fortunately has not been used, but is right there by the door. But for your principal purpose here, to get to the spray booth. This is the spray booth. I got this off of Amazon, and it is presently available on Amazon, and it's got a number of very nice features. Everything is included. The booth actually is advertised as portable and can be folded up. You can kind of see in the photograph there are some hinges, but I set it up and I've never moved it. But it comes with the LED lighting. It comes with all of the hardware to build in the exhaust. You can see over the top there the exhaust line going from the back there, and actually goes to a back window in my shop, which I took out and put in a board and used a dryer vent. So it closes when it's not running, but exhausts outside. The kit also comes with filters, though I used up all the filters that came with it, and now I'm using furnace filters that I pick up at Lowe's. And the little turntable comes with it as well. The filter has actually got two stages. It's got the front section, which obviously gets hit with the paint and needs to be replaced periodically. And then there's a second filter, which if you take care and keep it covered, does not get filled up with paint. The fan, there's actually dual fans behind that, and they're 2 speeds. And so you can run them at low speed and high speed. And of course, the lights are separately switchable. I'm a big believer in using this. I started many years ago when solvent-based paints were still available, and transitioned entirely to water-based paints to the extent I could. But nevertheless, I still use, for example, Tamiya spray cans, and a number of the glues are, have all kinds of nasty, volatile organic chemicals in them as well. So I tend to set anything that's got fumes over there. This is literally, if you would turn left from there, it's just swivel the chair, you would be at my workbench. So I can go back and forth between the workbench and the paint booth very easily. And anytime I'm going to be applying any kind of volatile paint or any kind of volatile glue, it's so easy to turn on the light, turn on the fan. And as you can see, there's lots of room in there. There's elbow room in there. So you can actually use that as a work surface as well. I checked this morning. It's still available on Amazon. There are a number of different models. This one is a little out of date. They've changed the hardware that comes with it so that you don't have to do what I did and build a panel and put a vent. It comes with a thing that looks like a vacuum cleaner head, a little rectangular vent. And so you could open the window, stick this rectangular vent into the window and close the window on it and exhaust out the window. But it does come with the hose. It comes with the clamps. But for the dryer vent, it gave me everything I needed to get this up and running in very little time. And I checked right now, if you're an Amazon Prime member, it's $150.
Jeff, what is the size of that? It looks pretty good.
It is very good size. It is probably more than 2 feet across the front and more than a foot deep in. So as you can work in there, you can get your arms in there. And so, when I'm gluing and painting, it's very easy Even if I'm just painting with a brush, if the paint is at all volatile, I can set the whole thing up in there. The little rotor there is removable, and so you can set it in. You can set your workpiece in there and paint it in there. And as you can see, the lighting is excellent.
Now,
there's a variety of them. There's a variety of them on Amazon. You can find ones that are smaller than this, and you can find ones that are bigger than this.
Now, Jeff, do you have a fire alarm in your shop?
Well, my shop is actually 2 rooms. The train room, no, but next door is the garage with the automobile in it, and I have a smoke alarm in there.
Okay.
I have a rather unusual situation that I have a standalone building that has got a room with the garage space in it, and then a separate room which is heated and air conditioned, insulated, which has got my model railroad and the shop space in it.
We kind of overlooked the fire alarm last week when we were discussing safety things we needed in our hobby area. Anybody else have any questions for Jeff on this?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment about these paint booths. I have the same one, or maybe a smaller version of it that's 12 inches tall, 12 inches deep, and 18.5 inches wide. They actually advertise you can set them up multiple together if you need a larger paint booth. You can buy 2 of them and they snap together widthwise.
Oh, okay.
Just something to keep in mind if somebody's looking for or needing a larger one for painting larger scales. And
and they do make them bigger, and they make them with 4 lights. This is a 3 light version. They do make them with 4 as well. Again, it's as easy as looking on Amazon and put in hobby, paint gallery or paint booth, and I was surprised how many there were and what a variety of prices there were. But I'm a big advocate that it's probably the single most important safety item in your shop, because I only use power tools occasionally, but I paint almost every day, and so or glue, and so you get a lot more exposure to paints and glues, and so venting your workspace, I think, is really important.
I agree. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you doing this for me. Now that we have 3D printing and laser machines, a whole new safety concern comes about.
So Steve, before you leave the paint booth, I wanted to show you. So this is one that was done. This is done essentially not bought but built. A little bit of plywood. So it's a 16 by 20 filter on the back, and you get a fan. And it turns out I found one on Craigslist by happenstance. That it's a I don't know, it's a fairly good sized 400 cubic foot per minute fan, but it's the kind where the motor is outside of, the motor has to be outside of the actual airflow, because that way you can't get sparks. So you're doing with, I'll take some pictures on the back if there's interest. It's kind of sits on top of a cabinet I built that's got all my scenery materials in it. But if you're interested, I can show how that was built. You can build one with a half a sheet of plywood, 3/4 of a sheet of plywood, pretty cheap and easily.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Jeff, is that booth rated? How is the fan on it? Is it in line with the exhaust or outside of the exhaust?
It's in line. It's behind the 2 filters. If you remove both filters, you see 2 fans behind that, and then that funnels into the exhaust vent.
Are those fans, those motors on those fans rated for the volatile compounds coming through?
Yes. Yeah, so they don't, you know, they're shielded so they wouldn't spark, they wouldn't ignite volatile vapors.
Any more questions for Jeff? You can also make one out of a cardboard box. Yeah, I like that, the cardboard box. Okay.
Yeah, and the feature is on this, obviously, it comes all assembled, and you don't have to hunt for a suitable fan. That the fans that come on this are suitable for handling paint fumes.
Okay, now I'm going to go to Bob Gelmacher. He's going to tell us about safety for 3D printing and laser machines. Bob, are you there?
I'm here. We've talked about 3D printing a number of times. I know in a presentation that I gave and other ones that have been given. And we know that there's a difference in the 3D printing between the filament printers and the resin printers, that the resin printer is a lot faster. It also gives you a lot more detail. But there's also a big difference in the safety concerns between the filament printer and the resin printer. The filament printer is a relatively easy and I think safe machine to run. The only issue that I've run into is that you have to worry about the tip through which the filament flows and melts. It gets very, very hot. And if you're not careful, you can burn your fingers. A lot of times I'll try to scrape plastic off of that nozzle, and if you're not careful, you know, you can burn. The other thing, and I've never had this happen, but every once in a while you'll have prints that go awry, and after 4 or 5 hours I'll come down to my printer room and I'll find a great big congealed ball of melted plastic around the nozzle. I've never had that catch on fire, but the potential is there. So the advice that I give anybody is just watch the printer as it's doing its thing so that you don't run into that problem. On the other side of the coin, the resin printer, there are major safety concerns. And when I first started into 3D printing, I was actually watching videos that people had masks and respirators and gloves and bunny suits, if everybody knows what they are, where it's almost full closed suit of plastic that goes over you to protect you. But I found that the materials aren't that toxic, although you still have to be very careful. One of the big issues that run into is you don't want to get the resin on your fingers or on your hands or on your clothes. So I know that I wear gloves now for everything. And I think I mentioned this in a previous discussion where I wasn't careful early on, and I really blistered my hands with. The other issue, not only with the resin, but also with the cleanup, there's an extensive amount of cleanup that you have to go through when you're using resin as a material. And the go-to for most people is IPA, isopropyl alcohol, which I usually wind up buying about a gallon of this stuff every week at Walmart. So it gets to be expensive. But what I found is that you just have to be really careful about not getting this on your clothes. And like I said, I wear gloves all the time. The other concern is, what do you do with it once it gets contaminated? There's not alcohol. You just can't pour that down the drain. I live out in the country west of Baltimore. So I work on a septic system, and I have to be very, very careful not to contaminate that septic system. You can't throw the contaminated alcohol in the trash. Luckily, in my county, Carroll County, and an adjacent county, they do have hazardous home waste receptacles that every so often you can take this contaminated alcohol to, and they will take care of it for you. But so the biggest issues is, number one, the resin itself, that you don't get it all over you, and the alcohol. it's not only the physical presence of it on your hands, but also if you're susceptible to it, the fumes themselves can get to you. One of the there's been a number of studies by a lot of 3D printers on what the best material to use to clean the prints. Somebody was saying a number of different alcohols are available, but I found that the IPA works the best. Some of the other alcohols that I've used, the fumes really did get to me and made me nauseated, but just be careful. The other thing that Steve asked me to talk about a little bit is the laser. The laser is a great tool because you can do a whole bunch of different things with that, but you just have to be careful. The laser light, if you put a piece of metal or something like that in the chamber that you're cutting, it could bounce off and hit you in the eye, and it could do serious damage there. The other thing, because this laser has the capability to burn through a lot of materials, is you just got to keep your hands out of the way. That seems to be intuitively obvious to most of us, but believe it or not, there are people that have had eye damage and hand damage because they weren't careful with the laser. So that's really all that I've got to tell you. And any of these, they're great tools to use. Each one of them comes with its own benefits, but each one of them also comes with its own safety issues. You just have to be aware of them.
Does it matter the I know in your 3D printer you're like on like the third model of your 3D printers, I believe. Do you use more material now than you did in the beginning, or less material have improved?
I lost you in the middle of your question.
As the 3D printers have improved,
yeah,
you know, from one version to the next, do you find you're using, let's say you have less failures?
The answer is yes. A lot of the printers have become automated where they do things for you as far as calibration and leveling and all like that. But no matter how good you think things are going, that's how bad they can go. Prior to Pittsburgh, I did a lot of printing of the ON30 cars that I was making, and I was banging those things out regularly every 4 or 5 hours without any failures. I came back and I started to print again this past week, and I had 3 failures out of 4 that I tried to print. So you never know. I've got to go back and recalibrate some things right now. But they are getting a lot faster. There's a lot of automation that the manufacturers are adding so that it's less upfront time that you have to take in order to get these printers ready to go.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Now we have a resident chemist in our group. Martin, can I talk to you for a minute, please?
You can talk all you like.
Hey, have you come up with any new chemicals that we've been handling while we're modeling?
No, I'm retired. I don't have a lab.
Diasol, something like that. I mean,
I just, I put the list of what diasol is in the chat.
Yeah.
You can make your own if you really feel daring. I don't recommend it unless you have a chemistry lab to work in. I mean,
so
these are dangerous things to work with in volume. They're dangerous to work with in the small 1 ounce bottles that we use, because if you have a spark and it catches on fire, you have a major problem, despite the small size of what you think that might really be. I mean, you think about lighter fluid for your charcoal grill and how dangerous and how stupid people are with it. Your paint thinner is the same thing.
Yeah.
Effectively, it's the same hazard. And, we don't, we take a lot of things for granted that are and ignored as, oh, well, it was sold to hobby shop. How can it be dangerous? Well, just because it doesn't say, or it does say in the finest and smallest to print on the bottle somewhere, we don't think about it.
It's government approved, though.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not.
Next.
No. Can anybody think of anything else that we need to discuss on safety while modeling? I strongly recommend a fire alarm or smoke alarm, let's put it that way, just in case, especially if you are in a separate building, like Jeff has one, I have one, fire extinguishers. These chemical fires, Martin, would they be extinguished by a regular extinguisher?
That would depend
Or
on
do
the
you need
chemical.
something special?
That depends on the chemical. I mean,
Oh, okay.
you think about a fire in your kitchen from a grease fire, you don't throw water on that. It makes it worse. So same basic story. You smother it if you're lucky.
Yeah, Pat said something about a blanket.
Fire blanket.
Yeah, they make fire blankets now for that. So all these things are necessary to have around. I hope we never use them.
The other thing, Steve, with a fire extinguisher, check when it expired.
Yeah.
Because in fact, I looked the other day because I was thinking about it, and so I've still got a year or two. Check when your smoke detectors expire too. And I'm now replacing the ones that were put in 10 years ago because they've expired.
Now, you moved to a new house. Is that why you're building a new layout?
Yeah, but it's new to me, but it's not a new house.
Yeah. Well, a new location. You're in a new location. So these are things you're going to do to prepare for your new build?
Yeah. I have unfortunately, it's in a condo community, so it's hard to modify any of the outside of the building. And where my workshop is, I don't have any way to vent outside, but I don't spray or any volatile paints anymore. If I use a rattle can or something, I take it out on the back porch here. And even in the dead of winter, if it's 40 or 50 degrees, if you have the everything's warm and you step out quick and shoot the thing, it does work. It's not the best situation, but I don't spray anything. I don't do anything with solvent paints anymore inside. Just not. The other thing that we forget about is hearing protection.
Yeah.
If you're running your shop vac, you should have hearing protection. I don't know if you can see that I'm the poster boy for that. I taught music for 40 years in bad rooms and all that kind of thing. And you don't think about it until your wife starts to say, my impetus was my wife said, I'm starting to think my name's what? So I went and got my hearing tested. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't put it back. It helps, it improves it, but you can't put back what you've lost. And you need to be careful with almost any power tool. You should have hearing protection when you're
and eye protection also.
But we think about you tend to think about the goggles more, but not about protecting the ears. When you're mowing your lawn, you should have them. The vacuum cleaner is probably probably got more decibels than a diesel engine does.
Yeah, that's for sure. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add in this?
One for Steve.
Yes,
two things: fire extinguisher types. Use dry chem or CO2 for preference. They will smother a chemical fire better. If you use a water-based extinguisher, all you're going to do is spread the thing.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what the second thing was. Okay, I'll go back to lurk mode.
Yeah, the typical fire extinguisher you get if you go to the Home Depot and the like are usually at least AB rated. And that means that they are suitable for flammable liquids, that they don't just scatter the flammable liquid, that they smother them. And let me also reiterate, eye protection is a very good idea, because there's so many things that we do, just clipping off bits of music wire and the strand flies, motor tool, and the grinding disc shatters. There's all kinds of stuff that can get in your eyes. And also, you may not think about it, but painting, occasionally overspray and so forth, you can get that in your face too.
Yeah. Jeff, let me ask you a question. When you were in the cab out at Durango, did they have a fire extinguisher in the cab?
Yes, they did.
Okay. That was a FYI. I was just wondering if they did.
Yep. I sort of suspected that it was a safety requirement, but yeah, down in the corner, in one corner of the cab, there was a modern style fire extinguisher.
Okay. All right.
Also, as long as we mention it, they use ear protection too. Everybody in that cab had earplugs.
Safety glasses too?
Yes. Though they're not as vital as they were when there were cinders, but yes.
Okay.
The decibel rating you get off safety valves when they lift can be right up there on a steam loco, especially if the safety valves are just in front of the cab.
Wow.
Hey, Martin, have you ever used a fire extinguisher that maybe uses like halon or a chemical like that I think is just basically used to kind of suck all the oxygen away from a fire, which is somewhat dangerous, I suppose, to use, but if you use it correctly, it could be better than a powder or something like that. Have you specifically ever seen or used anything like that, a halon fire extinguisher?
I have in industry. I haven't used it, but down in under the rolling mills in the steel industry, some were fitted with halon. They would give a warning siren before the halon let go to give you time to get out of the cellar. Because if you didn't get out of the cellar, you're out of oxygen and dead very quickly. Yeah. Halon is not a good idea for a home installation by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, you will find that they are sold in some automotive supplies for use around automobiles in a garage, because if there's a fire, they don't destroy anything by discharging the fire extinguisher. The typical ABC fire extinguisher leaves a tremendous residue behind, and it's a tremendous pain to clean up. But
yeah,
you're
that's where I was
absolutely
going
right.
with that. For the purposes
But you're
of
absolutely right.
your
Halon in a
layout, if
closed
you were in a
space is,
ventilated area.
yeah, halon in a closed space is very dangerous.
Wow.
I've seen the halons in data centers.
Yep, they usually have warning signs on the wall, and alarms if the system is set off.
Yeah.
And while you're in that data center, you'd want to be looking at where your nearest emergency exit is. Because if that halon alarm goes off, you've probably got less than 30 seconds to get out of there before you start and run out of air.
Well, I was going to say I have 2 or 3 canisters of it for home use. I'm not going to mention the company name, but yeah.
But they do work. I mean, we had a fire and we actually put it out. If you know how to use the fire halon extinguisher, they work fine. The big advantage of them at home is, a lot of people buy powder extinguishers in a year and a half. You've got basically a lot of powder in the caked up in the extinguisher, so it's not going to work. That's the problem. Is a lot of people buy a fire extinguisher and 15 years later, when they have a fire, they're amazed it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The beauty of the halon
Not
is
only that, it would save your layout completely as long as it was ventilated properly.
right.
Or you had safety equipment on.
Well, yeah, the halon, the whole thing with the handheld ones is you're basically creating a volume around whatever's burning, where you get rid of the oxygen, and it actually works pretty well if you know what it's doing. You pay attention to it. The real danger is, like, if there's something that comes through, like fabric that's still smoldering. When the halon goes away, it's re-exposed to oxygen, so you have to be careful about re-flare-ups and that. But I think they're kind of nice because they're, like I said, they do not wear out the same way the other ones do.
Yeah, that's a good point. And a reminder to everybody who keeps one of those powder fire extinguishers around, you're supposed to periodically take it off of the rack, turn it upside down, shake it, and bang on the bottom to break up the powder.
Wow.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for doing this tonight. I think this has been extremely beneficial because it's a subject that we don't talk about very much.
No, we definitely don't. One of the things I also would like to mention is when you have an open house, I would clearly mark, even if it's temporarily, any exits that you have out of the train room area. It's very important, and a lot of us overlook that. People need to know where to go if there is an emergency.
Yeah, good point.
That's all I have for tonight, Jim.
Well, thank you so much for doing it and for all the contributions that everybody made tonight. I think it's an extremely valuable subject because it's something that we just don't talk about. We just don't really think about that much. And I really appreciate you coming up with the idea, Steve. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, now, Phil, if we can run our caboose. Thanks everybody so much for coming this evening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, I hope you learned something. That's what it's all about. Till next Wednesday, have a lot of fun with your modeling. Thanks for coming.